I'm actually really surprised here. The Canon has an obvious cat's eye, so does the G Master. The Nikon, yes, but a little bit less. But the art lens from Sigma is by far the most circular in this particular test anyway.
Hey folks, welcome to Central Hong Kong. Today I'm here with Kara, thank you for joining me, to test out 4 different 50mm f1.2 mirrorless lenses. We have the new Sigma lens, Sony's original 51.2, the Canon Behemoth, and the Nikon Super Behemoth. We're going to put them side by side and give you a bunch of sample files. You can download the Pixel Peep for yourself. Let's go. So taking a look at the 4 lenses, there's some obvious differences in size and weight. How they handle is going to be a lot to do with what body you put them on. You know, Canon and Nikon both have integrated grip bodies or not. But let's just take a quick run through the specs, because there's a few things that might be a little counterintuitive at first. The Sigma is brand new. It weighs 740 grams or 1.6 pounds. It has 13 rounded aperture blades and 17 elements in 12 groups. It's got a 72mm front filter thread, and it's the smallest and lightest in the group, and also the cheapest at $1,400. That makes it $875 per pound. The Sony is the next smallest and lightest at 1.7 pounds or 778 grams. It has 11 rounded aperture blades, a same 72mm front filter, 14 elements in 10 groups, and it's $1,998 or $1,175 per pound. $300 a pound more than the Sigma. Next up is the Canon, and this is the fattest and one of the biggest, obviously bigger than the 2 Sony variants. This guy comes in at 2.1 pounds or 950 grams. It has 10 rounded aperture blades, 15 elements in 9 groups, a 77mm front filter, and it's the most expensive at $2,300, making it $1,095 per pound. Next up is my guy, the Nikon, which makes even the Canon look small. This guy is so long and heavy. It weighs in at 2.4 pounds or 1,090 grams, almost 100 grams more than the Canon, and it has the biggest front filter thread at 82mm. It only has 9 rounded aperture blades, but a really complex 17 elements in 15 groups. It's $2,100, but because of the weight, it comes in equal cheapest per pound at $875. It's quite interesting that the biggest, heaviest, and most expensive options actually have the fewest aperture blades, and the cheapest has the most. So we'll see if that makes a big difference to the circularity of the bokeh in the testing. Let's go get some pancakes. Bottomless brunches! Yeah, pretend you're Devil Wears Prada with your fancy handbag.
and the A9 III is easily my favorite of the different body types that Sony offers. If you're a Sony Alpha shooter, check out my brand new Sony Alpha setup guide that takes you through every full frame camera in the system through the complete menus, as well as customization guides and cam set files. Link for that below. So if you saw my initial review of the Sigma, I found it's not a true 50, or at least it suffers from serious focus breathing. Both it and the Sony up close were significantly wider than the Nikon I was comparing it to. And I found that just then, again, doing a tight headshot, to get the same kind of frame, I had to go significantly, obviously closer with those two. And it actually bears out in the specifications. The Canon, Sigma, and Sony all have a closest focusing of 40 centimeters. But you can see the reproduction ratio is 0.19 for Canon, 0.17 for Sony, and 0.16 for Sigma. So with the focus breathing, there's a noticeable difference in the overall frame change as you get closer to your subject. So just keep that in mind. Okay folks, time for part 2 of our little showdown. So far they're all doing really well. I hope you've checked out the sample files. If not, you can see details on that below. And reminder, I do have both Sony and Nikon setup guides available and live now. So in this video, we're testing out 4 different 50mm 1.2 lenses. So we've shot with them before. I don't know if I ever discussed it with you, but they're kind of classic. They get that really, really nice soft background. So we're just gonna find nice shots and then essentially try to do a similar shot on each of the 4 different variations. Okay. Just like the shoot with Kara, I'm shooting in this great studio space with Honey today to also shoot for an ebook and for the members site. And as we go through, we'll find shots where we can throw this in and compare all 4. Now in this video I've tested the Z7 II as well as the Z8 with the Nikon 51-2. They're both performing really well. You just need to have your Z7 II set up and know how to use it, and then you can get great results. If you're a Nikon Z shooter, check out my expert setup guide for that system. It's actually my best-selling course. It takes you through every camera in the system, all of the major firmware updates, how to customize, set up your camera and get the most out of it for your style of shooting. Details on that below, as well as the new Sony version. Okay folks, so I have to say, shooting with these guys, they all perform really nicely. They all focus well, their accuracy is really good, the strike rate is really high. Of course, at f1.2 you're going to notice some vignetting and they're not as sharp as they are stopped down at f2, but because these are f1.2s, I have only tested them at 1, 2, and 2. If you're going to shoot at f4 anyway, I would expect any 50mm lens is going to be doing great. Having the A9 III to shoot the Sony and the Sigma on, it's by far my favorite of the Sony bodies, so that was really nice. Now, you could excuse the size and weight of the Canon and Sony by saying, well, they have bigger bodies, that balances that out. It's true, but it's also an excuse. When you see how big the Nikon is and then how much smaller and lighter the Sigma is, it really does make you wonder, is it worth that extra heft? And there's definitely times where I'll use the 51.8. Oh, my light died. Sorry, as I was saying, there are definitely times where I will shoot with the 51.8 that I'm currently filming with, because this one is just so much bigger and heavier and so much more expensive. When did 50mm lenses become $1,500, $2,000 instead of a couple of $100? It's kind of insanity how things have gone. I didn't mean for this video to be a rant, but I do think it's quite crazy that $1,500 is considered cheap and $2,000 to $2,200 is considered acceptable for a 50mm lens these days. We're not talking dentists buying Leica Noctiluxes anymore. This is mainstream lenses. It's crazy. Anyway, it's all gonna finally, I don't expect anyone's really going to switch brands, but this is something that people are interested in. So if you haven't, go on over, you can download the sample raw files to check them out for yourself. But let's take a look at some here. To begin with, I'll just show the images full screen and one after the other, and I won't reveal to you or I which they are. And I shot them always in different order, so I genuinely don't know either. So, beautiful tone, beautiful color. Likewise, maybe a little warmer. Maybe not quite as nice skin tone on that one, and noticeably warmer on the last one. But all of them, the bokeh is really soft. This one, the background, it looks a lot less saturated. Like, look at the trees in the background left on that compared to, say, this one or even the ones before it. So let's take a look. This one, even on the wide shot, really, really nice detail on the face. So that's the Canon. Second was, I need to put up the full details, that's the G Master, then the art lens, the less saturated one, and then the Nikon is the very saturated, but I'm guessing that was probably more white balance. Now, I took these ones at 1.2 and f2. Let's just take a look at, mainly here we're looking at our subject, and then how's the background and foreground bokeh looking on each one. So we can see this is the Canon, the art, the Sigma, seems like it has a magenta cast to it, but yeah, equally soft bokeh. The Nikon, warmer again. And the G Master maybe feels a little less soft, like the trees up here in the top corner, comparing with the one after the other. A little hard to tell. Let's take a look at the f2 shots, and let's see how these look in terms of sharpness zoomed in. Now, because the Nikon was on, admittedly, a much older camera body than the others, but it is higher resolution. So I'll show it at 66% zoom and the others at 100. So the Canon at 100% zoom, all the detail you could want. Individual hairs, loads of pores. It's only when you go one after the other, though, that you really see it. There is the art lens. On this shot, not a big discernible difference. The G Master, if anything, maybe it focused slightly on the hair rather than the eye. I'm seeing less detail in the skin, at least, on the G Master. That could be focus just being off on that one image. That's why I make several different test shots available so you can check them out. A millimeter or two of misfocus on any lens at 1.2 can make a big difference. And then here's the Nikon at 66%. To me, it's looking kind of similar to the Sony, maybe not as crazy detailed as the Canon and Art on this example. I have a bunch of other samples that you can download, so don't miss out on those. And whilst you're over at my website, you can also check out the new Sony setup guide as well as my Nikon setup guide. I also have them for Fuji GFX as well as Hasselblad. So one last series here, the Canon. So here we're looking at just how Bokelicious the background is. And keep in mind, as I said, the Nikon has the fewest circular aperture blades, then the Canon, then the Sony, then the Sigma. So does that translate? And something you want to keep in mind, even if it's not just a matter of how circular your diaphragm is to result in how circular the bokeh is. It's also to do with the shape of the light you're shooting and your angle on it. If you're shooting something round but on a really acute angle, it can still come up as a cat's eye effect. But here I didn't really change my perspective, so that shouldn't be an issue. So the Canon, we are seeing that cat's eye effect, especially on these ones here on the right. Here with the G Master, probably just as pronounced on these ones. On the left, not so much. The Nikon, also maybe slightly less, is it? Or it's just a little bit more upright. It's slightly different shape, but still there. And the Sigma, I'm surprised, is definitely the most circular. Even the ones that are oval shaped, they have a more rounded top than the others that kind of finish out in a sharp point. So, you know, this one kind of looks like a football, whereas these ones look more like an egg on the Art lens. So in one way, kind of surprising, being that the Sigma is the cheapest, but in another way not, because it does have 13 rounded aperture blades. So let me know, folks, what did you think of those different versions? Was there one that stands out for you? Of course, it's only if you're a Sony user that you have a direct comparison, unless you happen to shoot across multiple different brands. I would say they're all fantastic, but I really think we're going down the wrong path here, agreeing to pay $1,500 to $2,000 for 50mm lenses. My 2 cents, let me know what you think. To test out 4 different, well, I think this is gonna go bad. How you doing, buddy?